When Nintendo announced that the Switch Online service would offer NES games as part of its premium package, I predicted that Nintendo would do a crap job of it. They would drip feed the games at an exasperating rate, rather than offer a comprehensive retro game service like they bloody should have done. And while I normally like to boast and show off about the accuracy of my predictions, I can't really do that with this one. It was obvious anyone could have guessed this one because it's what Nintendo does. When it comes to old school games, Nintendo is sitting on an embarrassment of riches. They have a massive retro library of not just NES games, most of which, let's face it, are rubbish, but SNES games, Nintendo 64 games, just tons of retro games they could offer. Using just their own published games, let alone third parties, they could offer on the Switch a Netflix for retro experiences, but they don't. Instead, they take a handful of NES games, seemingly at random with some of the awful choices they've made, and just throw them up onto their NES app roughly once a month. And Nintendo fans appear to have finally started getting sick of it. If you actually look at the like and dislike ratio on the announcement videos that Nintendo puts out for these NES offerings, you can see how increasingly disappointed people have become. Of course, likes and dislikes don't actually matter when it comes to being successful on YouTube, but Nintendo's not a YouTuber, and these ratios give a good idea of just how disappointing to Nintendo's audience these trash bag NES offerings truly are. If you go back to the NES updates for April, Nintendo offered Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream, and Star Soldier. Their announcement video for that sits at a ratio of 11k likes to 3.4k dislikes, and that's not the worst ratio in the world. I've had particularly controversial Jimquisitions sit at a ratio like that. It's not awful, it's not great obviously, it shows there's a pissed off contingent, but I've seen worse. In fact, let's look at worse now. Yeah, the update announcement for May shows a more brutal ratio. On this month, they announced Donkey Kong Jr. versus Excitebike and Clu Clu Land, and that earned them a ratio of only 5.4k likes to 5.9 thousand dislikes. So, we're over the 50-50 here now. So how did June do? This ratio of 3.8 thousand likes to 7.5k dislikes is in response to the NES offerings for June being Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, Volleyball, and City Connection. And at this point, I think it's fairly safe to say people are fucking sick of just how bad the Nintendo Entertainment System on the Switch truly is. You wait a month for 3 games. One of them is Volleyball. NES Volleyball. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Nintendo's always done this, though. They've always drip-fed their games while they sit on a massive mountain of titles. So much so that at the rate they drip-feed them, they never get them out throughout an entire console's lifespan. They never hit all the hits. When the Wii U was on its deathbed, when everyone had pretty much forgotten about it and were looking forward to the Switch, that's when they finally put Pokemon Snap up. When it was basically too late for anyone to give a shit. I know I was interested in picking the game back up again, but it had come so late in the Wii U's life that I was thinking to myself, well, I'm never gonna plug that fucking thing in again. Why the fuck should I bother downloading anything, especially since you won't be able to transfer the games over? And while the pathetically narrow trickle of games was bad in previous generations, at least they had a variety of systems. At least they had more than a bunch of shitty NES games. They had SNES games, they had Nintendo 64 games, they had games from other platforms as well. I love the Nintendo Switch, I really do, and I look for any excuse to have it turned on. And I would have hoped that a bevy of retro games would be the perfect excuse to have it on pretty much all the time, but you'll wait ages for Nintendo to scatter 3 games onto the service, and then what if one month it's Solomon's fucking Key? Well, that nightmare scenario already happened. I think that was in the second batch of offerings they had, and that set the tone, didn't it? Solomon's fucking Key. They got about 40 odd games on the NES app now. Very few of them are worth playing for more than 5 minutes. In fact, Dr. Mario, Ninja Gaiden, that's it. Who cares about the rest? They're either really crap, or they've been released and re-released so many times, they're worth less than nothing now. This isn't including the SP versions of games that they sometimes toss up, though frankly, I think every game they put up there to make them worth checking out should already have an option built into them for the special version. Normally that just means that they let you skip to the end level, or they give you a bunch of endgame gear to get through the games. They're not quite remixes, but there's something different. There's something just a little bit different enough to pique one's curiosity to make one want to check out a game for more than 1 or 2 minutes. But a vanilla version of Donkey Kong Jr., I don't need it. No one does. Nintendo had a tough job trying to upsell people on the Nintendo Switch's online functionality. For like a year after the system came out, people could play games online for free. And then Nintendo gated off what they were offering for free behind a paywall, which isn't offering value, that's literally taking value out of the player's hands. So they had to offer something to justify doing it, something more than just, oh, this thing we were letting you do, now we won't let you do it until you pay us. And the ways in which they've tried to offer that additional value have been dreadful, and very much like Nintendo, true to Nintendo form, they come with weird caveats that make no sense to normal people. Oh, hooray! You can finally back up your saves to the cloud, which is something we should have been doing from the start anyway, considering the Switch could get lost or stolen or broken and then you lose all your fucking save games. Oh, but wait, the cloud saves only work for some games and not others, because in some games you might be able to use cloud saving to cheat and lie to the online leaderboards, which is something literally no other system with cloud saves has ever had to worry about. But we've decided that problem exists, and then we've solved the problem before there was any indication that problem would happen, because we're Nintendo and we are fucking bizarre. Oh, and here's an app to do voice chat on your phone, because we're Nintendo. And we're fucking bizarre! And that's about it, apart from some special offers here and there. That is about it. The only saving throw they have is that it's cheap, about 20 bucks a year. But any amount of money is expensive when you were offering something for free and then you just took it away. Sony and Microsoft's offerings are more expensive, and very much like Nintendo, they gate away online play, but at least they've worked their asses off to try and justify that cost with other things. And when it comes to the Netflix for games idea, Microsoft's come a lot closer with a lot less in terms of first-party offerings, and the fact they've got a lot of third parties on board only helps them. The Game Pass is $10 a month. And if you play only one game a month on the Xbox One, just one game, almost any game, certainly if it's over $10 to purchase it, then it's already paid for itself, to say nothing of the reduced rate you can buy these games bespoke for. The Game Pass got me back into turning my Xbox One on, and this month alone I played Void Bastards and Outer Wilds, and there we go. That month paid for itself pretty much the same day I re-upped my Game Pass. I got more value than I paid, which is a lot better than the shit on the NES app that the Switch has. Most of those games aren't even worth 50 cents. Hell, I wouldn't even pay 50 cents for Solomon's fucking key. Nintendo's only saving grace is its gigantic treasure room of old classic games across a number of consoles. But rather than leverage that immense bonus, that immense advantage that Nintendo has, they're choosing instead to highlight how crap their online service is by dribbling out less than a handful of mostly rubbish games a month. Stand-up comedian Dylan Moran once described someone being nude in a way that always amused me. They said they were naked, but then he corrected himself and said, no, they're naked from the waist down to enhance their nakedity. And I love that image. I love that idea that having a few clothes on is worse than having no clothes on. It's like if someone bombs, if an actor bombs in the theatre and only one person claps. That's worse than nobody clapping, because that just highlights, it draws attention to the lack of applause. And that's what this thoroughly stupid trickle of NES games is. It's Nintendo being naked from the waist down, only demonstrating how inept its handling of any online service is, and how frustratingly stingy it is with this massive wealth of titles at its disposal. Where is Pokemon Snap for the Switch, Nintendo? Oh wait, sorry, no, priorities. First things first, we've got to have NES Tennis. Fuck off.